Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you're well today on this bright, shining day. This is an Ancestors of the Four Directions workshop. Welcome to our workshop. And we are the northern branch of the Ancestors of the Four Directions called the Order of the White Shell, Ord Shlika Vanamara. Hello and welcome to this workshop, The Ancestral Hunt, Tracking Our Lineages. My name is Mari Fix McEwen, or Shenaved Saint Eda Bofrush Koya Dentus from the Yew-Tree Clan Ewing. My lineage lands are Kilfinnan and Ulster, and that's in Alaba, or Eire, residing in the unceded territory of the Takbiam, Tongva, Keech, and Chumash tribal peoples. I was recognized as an elder for my people in 2015 by Maestro Hermano Vidal Aya Sanchez and his Council of Peruvian Elders. And I was given the task to bring my people back to their indigenous roots, as well as unite the indigenous people from the four directions so that we can work together to help put life back into balance and harmony. By the way, if you're listening to this workshop live or via video now, please like and subscribe to our new YouTube channel, Ancestors of the Four Directions. The link will be in the chat, and you can also find us on YouTube. And a big thank you to Ava for your tech support on this broadcast. The write-up for this workshop said, "Don't fit in, perpetual misfit, don't have a culture except for the Western culture, between two cultures or more, American, European, part European, or something else, attracted to indigenous and pagan ways. Join us now as we explore the European diaspora as we hunt for our ancestors." In this workshop, we will be discussing tracking our lineages with DNA. We will also have a talking circle during the second half of this workshop that will not be recorded, where we can all share our reflections and experiences regarding hunting for our ancestors, as well as any feelings of not fitting in or any lack of connection to our roots or any challenges we've had in this regard, continuing the discussion of the diaspora, how being displaced from our land, lineage, and earth ways is painful and has resulted in devastation on the planet. How do we now bring awareness, balance, and harmony and humaneness back into our walk? We will now begin with ceremony, with purifying and sanctifying the space and calling in our ancestors. We now open the Ancestors of the Four Directions and the Order of the White Shell, and we will start with the purification and blessing. And I pass to Ava.
Creator, grandfathers, grandmothers, this is your granddaughter, Wamadi Tawia speaking, welcoming all here from the four directions into the sacred circle. We cleanse and purify ourselves in a good way with the clearing powder of the cedar medicine and the gentleness of this sage. As the earth and fire transmute themselves and join each other, invite these healing medicines to completely wash over your body, mind, and spirit, bathing every thought, every word, and every deed brought into this sacred space and beyond as we explore the deep topics at hand. Visualize the washing away and clearing of anything heavy and outmoded that you've carried with you, anything that you no longer wish to hold on to. Release it all and bless it all in a kind and gentle way. May you all feel lighter and brighter and clear to communicate in this purified circle of intention and creation. All my relations. Pass the feather to the center.
Cynthia.
Calling in the east, Udher, August air, and the element of air. Calling in the south, Jeshgard, August Dochan, and the element of fire. Calling in the west, Yeter, August Ishke, and the element of water. Calling in the north, Twishgard, August Dune, and the element of earth. calling in the above and below, huas agus hish, and calling in the out within and through, amach is ti agus frij. And I pass to the center.
Under the divine law of our primordial nature, the truth, love, justice, and harmony, the understanding of the law of interdependence, I hereby open the ancestors of the four directions and the order of the white shell. This opening is a continuation of what is essential in ourselves. Here we seek to find, make aware, and embody the truth of our nature, the clearing of all delusions, and the caretakership of the very life we are in service to. In this congruence, we attain peace in ourselves and in the quadrants. Hello and welcome, my relations. Let us close our eyes. Listening deeply with our hearts so that we may open the door to healing within us and between us. Knowing that even if our discussion triggers wounds, defense, feeling misunderstood, or pain, that what is arising is a signal that Spirit is calling these things up for a reevaluation. Let us look deeply into the mirror of what our brothers and sisters experience in compassion and understanding, seeing in it the reflection of our own hurt, pain, needs, wants, and aspirations. Knowing there may be obstacles to overcome, with love, all things are possible. So I dedicate this prayer and this workshop to this process. With enough love, we can get through anything to understanding and common ground and finding our healing. If we look boldly at the shadow within us and in the outside world, we may find that it no longer holds power over us, and that we free ourselves from any illusions and subconscious patterning. I call to the heart within us that knows no fear, that seeks to set things into harmony, that dares to walk and live by the path of greatness for the healing of earth and all her peoples. May we look to this heart and know that together we have the power, no matter what it may look like or what we may have been told. The power to step into this alignment with life and each other for the good of the whole. And may we have the courage to take that path and make it a reality. Please feel yourself expanding in the whole of life, holding hands with each other of like heart and intention, dropping unneeded defenses, the outmoded, any hardening of the heart, looking courageously into the mirror, forming a new way that is in alignment with love and life itself, your original nature. I also put a special prayer in for Hawaii at this time and for anyone else hurting, praying that we all wake up to help all of our brothers and sisters and let go of any parts of our system and lives that are not conducive to life. We can work together to change the planet. Let us see the ways to do this and proceed into a more balanced way. I now place our individual and group prayers for love and healing into the fire as we begin. Bless these prayers, Creator. Yuhas, all my relations. Important to this process. Before we continue with our workshop, I would like to introduce our modality of sharing circles. Its purpose is to give voice to our needs and ideas, knowing that any erroneous ideas presented by participants will eventually gain clarity from dialogue and reflection, so we can eventually come to a place of true understanding. This is not a space of cancel culture, as you can lay your soul bare. We just ask you to be open to insights shared in the hopes that we all come to love and understanding for all concerned. Please trust this experiential process. We declare this a place of safety, where anything shared in circle stays in circle. Let us explore, let's cry, get real with each other. Let's cultivate the deepest of relationships, where we can truly hear each other and meet all needs, where we heal each other from all the shame, pain, and dysfunction, even back through our forefathers. No one left behind, not even the earth and her creatures. Please make note if anything comes up for you during this workshop, as you are an important part of the whole and the solution as we strive to work together. Our presenter this workshop is Sister Cynthia Klatte Cunningham, who has been pursuing her ancestral hunt via DNA. We have been talking about some of her explorations, and I have asked her to present on her progress, her process, some of her findings in this workshop. Cynthia, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Grandmother Mari, and so happy to see you all. And how's my audio coming through well? Great. So yes, I'm Sister Cynthia Klatte Cunningham, and I am here in Tucson, the unceded territory of the Tohono O'odham and Pasquale Yaqui. And I'm here to talk about one tool that we have at our disposal for our aid in our hunt for our ancestral roots. And DNA started to become more popular as the cost of testing came down as a result. So I decided to add DNA to my toolbox of genealogical tools. So I went on a genealogical treasure hunt using my DNA. So for those interested in embarking on such a hunt, there are 3 tests that you can utilize. I utilize all 3, and I'll review each of them in the order that I took them. So the 3 tests. Now I'll start with maternal DNA, which is called mtDNA. So the maternal DNA is inherited by both males and females, and it's inherited from the mother, but can only be passed down by the females to their children, not the males. And it mutates very slow, only once every 10,000 years. And the Y-DNA test tests for DNA that males inherit from the Y chromosome of their father and can only be passed down to males. Now this means only a female can take an mtDNA test, and only a male can take a Y-DNA test. So if you're looking to do that, you have to ask a relative, a close, like preferably a sibling or parent. And I'll talk more about that. Autosomal DNA tests for DNA from the autosomal chromosomes, which we inherit from both parents. And both males and females inherit autosomal DNA. One of the limitations of that test is if you find a match, you won't know if you're related through your maternal line or your paternal line. So I want to talk a little bit about the first test I did was the Y-DNA test. And I wanted to say before you even get the genetic test, there are things you can do to get more information. By searching your surname, it could potentially tie you to the land and to an entire community. And if you happen to be of Scottish descent, which I am in part, if you can identify your clan affiliation, then you find out what your tartan is, and this is the Cunningham tartan, what the clan motto is, the clan badge, and you get a whole community that comes along with it. Now, just to be aware, not everyone is going to be related to you. There are other ways that people get membership, so just to kind of be aware of that. So my father's mother was a member of Clan Cunningham, and it's a Scottish clan of the Lowlands. It's traced back to about the 12th century. The province of Cunningham was located in the northern part of Ayrshire, and the chiefs of the clan supported Robert the Bruce during the Wars of Scottish Independence. And their motto, "Over Fork Over," comes from a story about Malcolm III, the King of Scotland, was hiding in a Cunningham member's barn, and he was forking over hay to hide him. And getting to the DNA test itself, very helpful if you're specifically wanting to learn more about your paternal ancestry. Was helpful for me as a descendant of an adoptee, where luckily I had one name on his side, but I didn't have his father's name. So my goal in the beginning was to try to find my father's surname. And what happens when you take the test is you get a list of participants who also took the test with the same company you did, and you get a list of matches. And matches are people that you share DNA with. And then it gives you an estimate of the probability of your being related, and it will give you a percentage within a certain number of generations. So it might say there's a 97% probability you share a common ancestor in 4 generations or something of that nature. There's always room for error. And in addition, you can get access to their family tree if they gave permission for all of their matches to be able to view their family tree. Now, some people may opt to keep it private, but then you can still you get their email, you can email them to request permission. Now, I tested with family tree DNA, and just wanted to share a quote from their material. According to current theories, we are all related. The degree of relatedness depends on the time frame or the number of generations between the participants and the common ancestor. That was I think that's an experience you get from doing the research. And I'll talk a little more about that. Now, you also learn about your paternal haplogroup. Now, a haplogroup is essentially a population group of people that you belong to, that you match DNA with. And it starts with a letter, and then there'll be additional numbers and letters that further specify down the line where you were. And this map illustrates the migration patterns of the paternal haplogroup that my father belonged to. So my brother took the test for me, which was a matter of a cheek swab with a Q-tip, which was very simple. And this shows how tracing his lineage back all the way to Nigeria, and how we all came out of Africa. The second test, the maternal DNA test, I wanted to talk about. Now, with this test, you can go back tens of thousands of years. So this really gets into deep ancient ancestry, back to the most distant female ancestor recorded. So your mother's 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 mother, and so on and so on. Again, only a female can take the tests. And what you get afterwards, it identifies your maternal haplogroup. Then you get a list of people who've taken the test with your company, who belong to that group and who match your DNA. It includes their family tree if they gave permission for you to view it. My experience with this one, I got far fewer people on my list, much significantly fewer. And I think that's because far fewer people take the test. I don't really know the reason. My suspicion is maybe some people use DNA testing for paternity reasons, and that may be why. In a deeper dive into maternal DNA, I wanted to share about a book, The Seven Daughters of Eve, The Science That Reveals Our Genetic Ancestry by Brian Sykes. He's a geneticist at Oxford University. And he was tracing the maternal DNA of people of European descent in the North Caucasus, and he found that over 95 of those, despite wherever they lived, could be traced back to one of 7 clusters or clans, and each clan represented by one woman, a clan mother. And in his book, by looking through the archaeological record and looking at, with the woman they traced it back to, what was she buried with? What could we learn about what life was like for her to live? He took that and made a story that you could read to get a familiarity with your clan mother, which, while it is semi-fictional, it is based on research and was really interesting. And I'm going to introduce you to the 7 daughters of Eve. That's the proverbial Eve. Oops, here we go. So my clan mother was Ursula. She is the eldest, and was found in Greece. And Ursula is Latin for she-bear. Xena, 25,000 years, from southern Russia. And Helena, which means light, from southern France. And this is from the area with the lots of beautiful cave paintings that her clan was responsible for. And Velda from northern Spain, which was Scandinavian for ruler. Tara, which is Gaelic for rocks or stones, sent from central Italy, is actually the clan mother for the vast majority of people in Ireland. Katrine from northern Italy. Jasmine, which is Persian for flower in the Middle East. And I'll just touch a little bit on Ursula. I don't know if anyone saw the film Clan of the Cave Bear, but this you can get an idea of maybe how she might have lived. So as mentioned, she's the eldest clan. U started about 45,000 years ago. Now I'm U5A1G1, and U5 dates back about 25 to 35,000 years. U5A1 about 15 to 20,000 years ago. And she lived in a cave, and within they found a cave bear in the region of the Altai Mountains her clan hunted bison, and they called her the she bear, and they traced her migration from Turkey. So about 11% of your people of European descent come from Ursula. And my haplogroup is most numerous in the British Isles, northern Italy, Russia, and interestingly, Iran. And actually did have one DNA match there. Now, I want to touch on autosomal DNA and what you can learn from that test. And that one's been the most prolific, I have to say. The real benefit of the autosomal DNA test is you get an estimate of your overall heritage. And this is an example of my estimates that came from Family Tree DNA. And you'll notice at the bottom, under Jewish diaspora, Ashkenazi 2%. When you take the test, you'll get a list of people with the company who are DNA matches, and it will give an estimated relationship. So it might say something like, we estimate they're between your third and fourth cousin, or second cousin once or twice removed, something to that effect. You will have access to their family tree if they gave permission. And what I found was you get a very large list of matches, more than the Y-DNA and mtDNA test combined, because it's the most popular test taken. And extra bonus, if you take the test with any company, there are several free companies that have website services. You can upload your raw data with your DNA information on your autosomal test, and they will analyze it. And each company has a different focus or different tools. So I upload it to MyHeritage because you can also, one benefit is anyone who tested with them, you can then run a match. So you'll get a whole new list of people, potential DNA matches. But MyHeritage gave more specificity with your heritage, and actually broke it down into places. So you can see my Finnish ancestry included Russia, Leningrad, and Karelia was an area in Finland that at one time was taken over by Russia. And you can see in the Irish, Scottish, and Welsh, they identified Cavan and Leitrim in Ireland. So that was really helpful. Now, GEDmatch and yourdnaportal.com, one thing they were helpful with was they had very specific tests. If you suspected you might have a certain type of ancestry, you could run a test to find out. Because some of the general tests, they may not, let's say you had something that was more uncommon, like Sami ancestry. It might not get picked up with some of the more general searches in some companies, because they just may not have many Sami people in their population to kind of compare you against. Some things get missed. So I first went to GEDmatch, and GEDmatch is a site that actually researchers use. So that was my first go-to, and it is free. There is a bit you have to learn beforehand to use it, but they have a J test, which is much more sensitive to Jewish ancestry, and I just wanted to do kind of a double check, and they actually gave me 27.16% Ashkenazi, which was interesting. Then in your DNA portal, because I'm a third Balkan, I decided to use the tools to look at potential Kurdish or Turkish ancestry, and yeah, found about 3.5% for both. So those can be very useful tools. Two other tests I used that looked at very ancient ancestry versus more modern relatives. One, home DNA ancient origins. They call their test, they say it has like this GPS feature, not quite exactly, but it's purported to trace your ancient ancestry into points on the map, and you kind of get a map of the migration patterns. And wanted to share this as it should, and most people come up with at least a smidgen of Africa, where we all came from. Now, the GEDmatch MDLP-K23B, the reason I'm showing this one is, and let me just move this out of the way. This one also will demonstrate our ancient African DNA. And it will tell you, how much of you was a hunter-gatherer versus an early farmer, etc. And the last company I'm going to tell you about is called mytrueancestry.com. And this one has been the most interesting. They only focus on very ancient DNA. They have a very large database of DNA taken from archaeological digs, from all the universities. One of the nice features at mytrueancestry.com is they give you a breakdown of ancient tribes. So this is a map of the Brittonic Celtic tribes. So the Celtic tribes of Britain in 43 AD, this is before the Romans invaded and before the Anglo-Saxons invaded. And these are actually the names the Romans gave them because, they were the conquerors and they wrote the books. And so I'm sure the people did not call themselves this. It was probably something similar, but not the same. And through their test, I was able to trace my British, Celtic, Brittonic tribes to the Dobuni. They're in southwest portion in the Cotswolds. So they are essentially the indigenous people of Britain before the Anglo-Saxons took over. Now, one thing I took from this journey is when you're doing research, you're going to find out about things in history that may not be covered in the history books, that may have been, for the most part, kept hidden. There were 4 ancient ancestors of mine from Oxfordshire, England, and died around 1002 AD. And in my researching the dig, this is a picture from the archaeological dig, which was at St. John's College at the University of Oxford in 2008. They found a mass grave. And they found that on November 13th, the year 1002, which was Saint's Day, St. Bryce's Day, Ethelred, the ruler of the English kingdom of Wessex, quote, ordered slain all the Danish men who were in England. And I wanted to introduce a few more ancestors who were women warriors. And this was another learning experience that I took away from my ancestral hunt, that I learned a lot about history, and that really had an impact on me. And we're going to go back to the 4th century BC, and we don't have names for these individuals. Psi 011 was her laboratory sample number for her DNA, so that's all I have to call her. And these are artists' representations of what a Scythian woman warrior looked like based on, what archaeology has found. So this was in the village of Nestrivka in the Mankivsky district of Cherkasy Oblast in Ukraine. She was found buried in a kurgan, which is a burial mound where someone is buried under a mound of earth and then with rocks on top. On the right bank of the Dnieper River, she was buried with a horse, 2 gold pendants, gold headgear, 6 embroidered bands, 16 silver harnesses, a bronze lantern, 10 arrows, and a ceramic lumen spindle. So from reading about this archaeological dig, I came to find out that the women in Scythia, it was very common for the women to be defending their homeland, and they were widely known to be extremely good archers on horseback and very powerful and feared warriors, actually. And now we're going to move ahead to 950 AD and meet BRK 581. She's actually been featured in a BBC series. Now, the dig was in 1878. There were no pictures, so this is a drawing that an artist did of the grave. And these are actually scanned photos of what was found in the grave on the right-hand side. And the bottom is an artist's rendition of the grave at the time of death. So the body was found in a sitting position wearing garments of silk with silver threads. Grave goods were a sword, an axe, a spear, armor-piercing arrows, a battle knife, 2 shields, and 2 horses. There was also a gaming set, which high-ranking warriors used for strategy. At the time, the individual was gendered male because it was a traditional warrior burial. They were always buried with their weapons, and if they had fought on horseback, buried with their horses. And the gaming set was commonly used by the higher ranking warriors to plan strategy. So DNA comes around and they start testing the samples to learn more about them, and they find out this is a woman. And there was a lot of resistance in the archaeology community to accept that possibility that a woman could possibly be this high-ranking warrior. And there were all kinds of excuses made. Well, she was playing dress up. She probably paid somebody, just to get buried with all this stuff. Oh, the axe was, to cut off chickens' heads, and so on and so forth. But they did further research and did substantiate this was an authentic warrior burial, and they conceded, and that led to testing all of the major Viking archaeological digs, and they found many more women who were misgendered. So this really had a big effect on how archaeologists thought about women's history, and it had a very empowering effect on me, seeing all these women who were both leaders and defended their homeland. The last ancestor I want to talk about, I discovered through studying a male ancestor. So on the top pictures, you'll see Ladislaw the First. He was king and saint of Hungary. He lived between 1040 and 1095 AD. That is his relic that is in a church. And to the right, you'll see what the contents of the relic is his skull, because that was another thing I learned. The church likes to take their holy people and cut them up into pieces and then pass them around for good luck, for power, or a variety of reasons, which was very disturbing to me, and was not treating their remains as sacred, but that's a whole other talk. So when researching King Ladislaw, his 8th great grandmother name was Lebus, and she was a Bohemian princess, and she founded Prague, lived between 782 and 860. And she was a really amazing woman. She was a seer and a ruler of Prague, and quite a revolutionary who fought for women's rights. The painting is an image of depicting her, and the painting on the right is about the Maiden's War, which I'll touch on. In reading stories about her, they're quite mythological. They talk about her mother being a dryad who fell in love with her father, who protected her from the acts of a woodsman, and then she became, a human and married her father, supposedly. And she was the youngest of 3, but her father, who was the king at the time, he chose her because she was the wisest, and she had a council of elders that she would work with, but she was, the leader. And men started having great difficulty with that. And so she didn't want to be married, but they pressured her to get married because they said, if you get married, we'll listen to your husband. So she chose a partner, made him king. His name was Premezl, but she warned them, because she was a seer, and she said, when I'm gone and he is ruler, you may not be so happy that war will come and there'll be a lot of strife. And turns out she was right. She died early. He became the ruler, and there was lots of war. And women's rights were quickly curtailed when he took power. But her spirit lived on. Her close friend Vlasta led a rebellion, which is kind of depicted in the painting, called the Maiden's War, which, this is just amazing to me. The women all left and went to this other location and said, we're not going to take this, and we're going to fight the men and get our rights back. And initially they kind of tricked them and made the men think, oh, they just want to kind of get together and hook up. But actually, it was a trap. And that's how they overcame a group of the men. But then it came to arms, And unfortunately, they lost the battle. But despite that, the story of Lebus and Vlas's strength really did have an impact on what was then Bohemia, which is now the Czech Republic. And women had actually fought harder for their rights, and they had more rights than other areas of Europe at the time. And if anyone wants to take a screenshot of resources before I put that aside and wrap up and get back to my notes, I'm going to put this up for a moment. And this will be recorded and available online as well.
And what we're going to be doing, because we're running behind, is put any questions for Cynthia at the end. So if anybody has extra time to stay, we're going to start heading into our talking circle really soon.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, I wanted to say my genetic genealogy journey ended up being more successful for finding ancient ancestors and modern relatives, which as an animist didn't disappoint, even though it didn't bring me those living close modern relatives I had hoped for. It did help me start to build a relationship with my ancient ancestors, which has brought me a sense of belonging and strength. And made me think, for anyone who doesn't connect with their recent ancestors or might even avoid things to do with their family because there may be some trauma associated with them, I'd like you to keep an open mind about connecting with ancestors. You can find ancient ancestors that may be more relatable or more endearing than recent relatives, and that even could be a source of strength and support. And, these ancestral studies uncovered both the good stories of strength and resiliency and the bad, sometimes the really bad. So, you're going to get quite a mix. And final thoughts, it got me thinking. I had heard at various talks I had attended with Native American elders who talked about if you can heal yourself, that has the capacity to heal going forward 7 generations and going back 7 generations. And I thought, what if I could bring some healing towards something that occurred in my family, say 20 generations ago? What might be possible? And in terms of my future focus for my research, my interest is discovering a time and place in Europe where men and women of all ethnic and racial backgrounds lived in harmony with each other and with the land they lived on. Did such a time exist? Even for a little while? I'd like to believe so.
So I would like to open this up to our talking circle. And I really thank Cynthia for her presentation. She's done so much work around that, and I certainly haven't. I've done the opposite, which is following the ancestral tree of my lineage, which has been easy for me. And maybe someday I'll go into that with you, but it's from the different point of ancestry or different kinds of research. So I'd like to say and start this prayer in Gaelic. Iriem in you, iguacht na fleisch, salshish grenu, in yella na gali, in aljacht tina, in mira lasrach, luas gwia, in nivnach farga, munshas takt talun, in eigenacht karaga. We go forth today under the power of heaven, the light of the sun, the radiance of the moon, the splendor of fire, the speed of lightning, the swiftness of wind, the depth of the sea, the stability of earth, firmness of rock. From the heights to the depths, may we be encircled in love and safety. I would like to thank our ancestors for this. This would not be happening if we were not standing squarely on their shoulders. And I think that sometimes we have been brought into this life to repair some of the things that have happened. And maybe that's why we've come into some of our lineages. And I'd like to pass to Cynthia to close the directions.
Ek gua wihas agus onara donu shat daro agus da daisk. Thanking and honoring all the directions in their teachings. And I pass the center.
Passing to Ava.
Thanking and blessing all that joined this sacred circle from the four directions. We cleanse and purify ourselves in a good way as we close this circle, washing ourselves fully and completely with these medicines, and bathing every corner of our energetic fields and into the beyond of our daily lives. As we reflect in the coming days on all the messages and prayers shared today, may our thoughts, words, and deeds reflect the good work of realigning our own relationships with Mother Earth and with all forms of life upon her. The sacred circle is now closed. May we go out into the world wrapped in a blanket of love and light and protection as we breathe new life in all my relations.
All my relations. I would like to let you know that the ancestors of the four directions hopes to continue to build on work that we have done here and the work we have done in the past workshops, which will include offering healing workshops, nonviolent communication trainings, Indigenous wisdom, and coming to consensus circles. All of our needs will be considered real and valuable in these sessions. If you are interested in healing workshops, some of the workshops will have a prerequisite of the last four racism workshops that you can easily watch on YouTube if you haven't yet done so. So everyone has the background needed for clearing subconscious patterns. I will send out replays of these workshops in newsletters, so just keep an eye on our newsletter. We're also going to be touching on hardcore subjects in the future, like AI and health, energetic patterns like EMF, and different kinds of things that may be affecting us physically, and how to work within this structure as we go to the next, creating a new world. So we're going to be seriously contemplating how to start changing things. Let's see, Ava, can you post the email links and our donation link in the chat? Please consider aligning with the law of reciprocity by offering a heart exchange for any benefit you may have received here today, as well as any benefit for any of the other classes you might attend. We have offered many in the past, and they are on our YouTube page. And we have two YouTube channels. One is called Order of the White Shell. That is for the northern branch of the Ancestors of the Four Directions. And then you can find us in Ancestors of the Four Directions. If you'd like to sign up for our email list, you can look at the link that will be posted in the chat. Please post the next links in the chat for that. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channels. Thank you to our presenter, Cynthia, our tech team, our sharing circle participants, our ceremonialists, and all of you, as we need to do this together to heal the planet and our relationships. We're also looking for tech people to assist us on future offerings. So if you have any capability or just want to learn, please step up. Also, if you have any suggestions for classes or exploration or groups, drop us a line. Much love and gratitude, and we hope to see you at our upcoming events, and many blessings to all.